So this is a narration of what I hope to be many video journals of my e-bike trips. This one is my trip to work, and this is during the winter. As you can see, this is early January 2015, and we're going from the downtown area of Ithaca, about 850 feet up, and to where I work. So as you can see, headed out first, and I'll just note some things that are important issues that I noticed. The roads are pretty clear, which is nice for winter riding. And there is some traffic. This happens to be right when schools are starting to unload their children, drop them off, and we're going to pass by a high school on the right and also a middle school. So this is kind of a high traffic area, and I don't really like this a whole lot, but I only have to do this for about 3 minutes, and then I'll be into a low volume area, low traffic. So we're headed over a bridge here. This is Ithaca Falls, and so we're passing over, and on the right you see the high school. On the left now you're looking at Route 13. And Route 13 is generally the route we're going to be following this whole trip. It's the most efficient way up the hill, and I don't know how old this route is, but in terms of how much energy goes into getting up the hill versus the distance you got to go, it's probably the most efficient. I could cut straight up the hill by the Cornell campus, but again, those grades of those roads are going to be really steep, and in the winter it's really important not to try to take anything too steep. So you see, the one treacherous thing about riding in the winter is there's no shoulder, and I've got cars past me, and so it's very important to strike a balance between how much you're actually in traffic and the danger of riding on the shoulder when there is snow, because that snow can tip you over, and we'll get into that a little later. I'm actually going to be riding in snow a little later on this trip, so you'll see that. So on the right here, you're now seeing a middle school, and that is Boynton Middle School, and so buses will be pulling out of here, coming in here, so it's important to keep your eyes open, especially in these high traffic areas. You can see where the buses are pulling out there. It's not a bad day. This day is actually about 20 degrees in the morning, which is pretty nice for winter riding, because normally in this area during the winter it gets down to about 10 degrees in the heart of winter, and then when you get up first thing in the morning, that's how cold it is. So this is the last intersection before I kind of duck into the woods and get out of all the traffic. So this traffic's coming off Route 13, and then they're dropping students off at the school. So kind of a busy one, but you just gotta look both ways. You see me doing the camera there. It's on top of my head, so where I look, the camera does. So this is actually one of the steepest moments in my trip, and you see I'm taking it really slow, and the reason is because I'm actually pedaling to help the motor out. Even though I have batteries and I have plenty of torque power to get up this grade, I don't want to overstress the batteries. I'm actually on a battery pack that is about a total of 50 volts, maybe 52 at its fully charged point. And so what's going to happen is this voltage controller is set to cut off at 48 volts. So what that means is that as soon as the batteries drop down about 4 volts of their total capacity, the voltage controller is going to shut off, and the whole bike is going to power down. And so I'm trying to avoid that happening by going extra slow and actually helping out the bike up this hill. Okay, now I finally made it up the steep part, and at this point you can see the traffic has died right down, and that's because we're headed into a residential area, and there's two things to notice. One, less traffic, which is very nice, but also the roads are going to be a little better kept. And so this area that we're headed into is called Cayuga Heights, and it happens to be one of the wealthiest neighborhoods in the Ebike area. And that means that the roads are going to be taken care of extra quickly, because these are high taxpayers, and so they're going to demand a little more service, not only for their homes but their roads as well. So I picked these better neighborhoods because they're going to take better care of their roads. Okay, now on the left, you might be able to see it. That's Cayuga Lake, and I want to, in future videos, actually flash a map here every so often, just showing you where along the trip I actually am. But that's Cayuga Lake along the left, and also along the left, we're just riding right along Route 13, which is exactly what I want to do, because again, that is the most efficient route up this hill. Okay, so as you can see, we're in a very sparsely populated area, and so it's nice and quiet. There are some cars and traffic, school buses, so it's nice because if anybody's behind me and wants to pass me, they've got a wide berth, because chances are there's not going to be traffic coming the other way. So I really like to be in these sort of situations where the traffic's coming both ways and not going very fast is ideal biking route. Ideal biking route. So making it up the hill. At this point, I've gone about 300 feet up. It's nice because when you start going up in elevation, and it didn't take you that much work to get up that high, you really psychologically are feeling good about your trip at this point. And so it's really nice to have good psychology when you're riding, and so you've got to know how to offset the good with the bad, and so you sort of give yourself a little celebration when you feel that you've made it up in elevation. Distance is good, but going up in elevation feels extra good. It just takes a lot of energy to go up in elevation versus just on a flat surface. So this is the end of this road right now. I'm going to come to an intersection, and right at the end of this road is another steep grade. So again, I'm going to slow down, and at this point, speaking of my psychology again, I'm really starting to worry about those batteries and when it's going to cut off. The problem is that when it cuts off, it just drops out, and I'm left with powering myself by my legs. And the reason that this is bad is because this usually happens on a hill. When the batteries are most stressed is when their voltage is going to drop the most. And so they usually will drop out right when you're in the middle of a hill. And so what that means is that you've got to pick up the total weight of the bike and yourself, and it just really psychologically seems like torture to have it just cut out on you right at that moment. I guess I'd have to find better words to express the feeling a little later. So we're in the residential neighborhood. This is Cayuga Heights, and look at those roads, just nice and clean. And so this is why I like to take this route again, because the more that the money is in a particular area, the better chance the roads are going to be clear, especially right after a storm or even during. So, and I know it seems shallow and unfair to say that, but it is the truth. When you as a biker are taking advantage of people taking care of the roads, and the roads that are going to be best kept are the ones that have the most money going through them. Okay, so I'm coming to the end of this road, and the next intersection we're going to come to is going to take us over Route 13. And so again, at the end of this road where it snakes up here is very steep, and so I'm going to really try my best to help the bike out. You're going to see the camera wobbling a little bit, and the reason for that is because it's on top of my head and I'm pedaling. So I'm really trying to help the bike out. I'm slowing right down and doing my best to use my legs to get me up this hill versus relying totally on the batteries. It's nice to save the batteries for the flat areas because that's when you're going to pick up your most speed. This trip in total is about 30 minutes, and I'm going to do my best as I do these videos to get that down to maybe 20 minutes. But 30 minutes going 5 miles means on average I'm doing 10 miles per hour. So here you're going to see me pick up speed and make up for lost time going up those steep parts. So here's where you really let the batteries take over because it's not that difficult for them, and you can really I won't get a low voltage cutoff at these points typically because it's not that difficult for the battery. So there's Route 13 to the left and to the right. I've tried to look to show that's where all the traffic is going, and we're kind of trying to stick as close as possible to this Route 13. Now we're crossing over it, and on the left side is kind of the country, and we're headed out into the country of Ebike. And so the traffic and the scene sort of changes, and so you'll have to be aware of how to ride in the city versus how to ride in the country. But we're actually going to be on this little trip into the country for about 60 seconds to 2 minutes. We're going to duck right into a residential neighborhood. And again, the idea is to stay out of traffic as much as possible. In the country, they tend to drive really fast and have less courtesy for bikers. So here is the turnoff for the residential neighborhood, and what I'm going to do at this point is stop in my trip and swap out my battery packs. Now remember, I said that I was using a battery pack about 52 volts top, and the good thing about using that pack is I really limit how much those batteries can drain by having that low voltage cutoff, and that saves the batteries from catching fire. And I've had that happen once on my bike, and then I had it happen another time charging, where you charge them too much and they catch fire. So but this next pack I'm about to connect is what I call my performance pack, and that has a top voltage of 75 volts. And the more volts you get on an e-bike through that voltage controller, the faster your motor is going to spin. So with this pack fully charged, I can do approximately 32 miles per hour. I'm not going to do that here because, again, we're still headed uphill. We're about 500 feet up from where we started at this point. Now you saw me turn really quick there. That's because I noticed that there's a car behind me, and I'm trying to speed up to be courteous to them and conscious of their commute, and they might need to hurry up and get where they're going. So I'm going to try to stick to the shoulder. I can't go too much in the shoulder. You see there's snow there, and if I tip over, that could really freak them out behind me. And so I want to give them a consideration, and there they go. So now in my psychology, I'm a lot more relaxed and calm, and I don't feel like I'm bothering anybody. It's very important in your bike ride to have good psychology and to do those things that are going to keep your mind in a good place, especially when things get really adverse and you're facing wind and rain and really bad conditions. And it does happen. The danger is going to work. It can be really fine and nice, and this is exactly what happened on this particular day for me. It's about 20 degrees in the morning and nice, and everybody was courteous. And then at night, the same day, it dropped to about 7 degrees. And so the ride home was very bitter and very cold, and so people tend to act differently when the conditions are a little worse. Okay, now we're coming to the point of the trip where I'm going to start riding into snow, and this is very dangerous. The good thing is that there's no cars here, so if I spill, it's just going to be me to deal with it. But it's very bumpy, and there's already tracks. And what makes driving in the snow especially challenging is that the tracks are compacted snow, where when there's no tracks, you're not going to really have any contour changes in the pathway. So where it's been compacted, your tires will actually begin to slip on, and so it's important to try to find fresh powder if you can, but if you can't, just be ready to spill and go slow. Put your foot down if you have to. Okay, now we've entered into the back area of the Trip Hammer Mall, the Pyramid Mall we call it, and so the parking lot is going to be really well kept. Again, they're going to plow where the money is, and if businesses are there, they definitely want those roads clear as soon as possible, and so you see that they've done a nice job cleaning up this parking lot area. So that's why I try to choose these areas, because people are already going there, and chances are they're going to be well kept. Now, I'm going to do my best at this point to keep behind this car. I just want to try to illustrate how I can pick up a good amount of speed on the electric bike. I'm not going to pour all my juice into it because I'm still not quite where I want to be. But the reason I've turned the sound on my helmet camera at this point is because we're just about to come into my favorite part of the trip, and every trip something different happens, something is a surprise, and something's different. And this is what happened this particular trip. Here's a truck, and he's flashing me, and he gives me a honk, and so I thought that was just awesome. He knew I was recording, he saw the camera, and he wanted to contribute to the thematic theatric experience here, and so I thought that was awesome. So it's nice when people are courteous to you and they're encouraging you, because you definitely want to be an encourager of other people and be courteous to them. So it's good to have a good reputation on the road. Okay, we're coming out of the mall area, and again, we're still headed up. I wish I could show you an elevation map, and in future videos, I want to get the GPS elevation map so you can see exactly how high we are at this point, and what the difficult places are. And in 2 dimensions, you really can't see the slope of these hills. You really need 3 dimensions to get an idea of how steep these really are, and so elevation maps are good for that. We're headed into another mall area, and this is called the Cayuga Mall. And the thing that's different about this parking lot is that they tend to use tons and tons of salt, and so you'll hear all this crunching as you're riding, and it makes you cringe, because all that salt really is hitting the body of your bike, your brakes, all your gears, and the chain. And so what I tend to do in these areas is not pedal at all if possible, just because the more you pedal, the more it's going to work the salt into all of your gearing and chains. And so I tried during this part of my journey, especially when they've just salted, to not pedal. And you see those tracks there, that's just pure salt. That's not snow. Okay, going to do a little bit of snow riding here up a path, and I'm headed to the final stretch of my journey, long stretch I should say, and so this is pretty well shoveled, and so it's not really a big deal, but we're headed back out onto the road. Again, a pretty nice neighborhood we're headed into, and that just means that the roads are going to be very well kept. At this corner, I kind of had a car behind me, and so I was really trying to be conscientious, and I didn't have a lot of shoulder here, you see, because I didn't want to slip on that, so it was kind of a very frustrated turn for me. So sometimes it's important to remove yourself from a stressful situation just so your psychology doesn't get too damaged. So on the right, we're actually just going right alongside Route 13. You can't really see it, but about 300 feet to the right, it's Route 13. This is the final stretch, and right now I'm going to throw the throttle full force here and get going about 25 miles per hour. And the reason I can't get up to that 30 that I told you about is this is uphill. It doesn't look it because, again, it's 2 dimensions, but this is an uphill battle. We're about 700, maybe 800 feet at this point, and coming to the end of our journey. And you can see how quickly that car passed me, so I'm not doing 30, but as fast as the throttle will take me. And again, as the voltage drops in the batteries, your top speed is going to drop. So what your top speed would have been when you're just come out of the garage in the morning is not going to be your top speed when you're when your batteries are halfway drained. At this point, they're about halfway drained, and I'm going to get some battery voltage meters so that I can tell you exactly how much they're drained, and they'll help protect the batteries, but that'll be in later videos. Okay, so this is the top of the hill. We've gone about 850 feet in elevation at this point. It feels really good to know that you can make it that high up without breaking a sweat. And in this time, it average 10 miles per hour. And so we're coming into a heavy traffic area. Again, I don't like being in traffic, but we're going to just cross over this traffic. To the right, that's Route 13, and to the left, that's more businesses. And so people are going to work, and they're also coming out of the country to go to work at Cornell, one of the biggest employers in our region. And you see in front of me is all white, and that's because we're headed into snowland, and at this point I'm being very careful not to fall over because I know people behind me are probably waiting for that to happen, and I try not to be too much of a spectacle when riding. But the problem with riding in snow is that the tires are just going to try to slip out from under you, and you've really got to do a lot of twisting and turning of that front tire to catch yourself from giving into a particular fall. And so here's a hotel that path leads to, and so it is a more direct route to where I'm going. This is going to lead out into the technology park, the Cornell Technology Park, and there's just a grouping of businesses, and so a lot of people are coming to work here. And so this is just the most direct route through this technology park to get to my job. And so we're going to go into traffic one last time, and there's not a lot of traffic here, so it's not too dangerous or nerve-wracking. Okay, and for this last leg of the trip, or last snow riding leg of the trip, we're headed on to the footpath. And again, if you look on this footpath, and you can see it on your screens, there's not going to be too many bike tire tread marks, because I'm pretty much the only one that's doing this right now. Everyone else is driving their car or taking the bus. And so when you're trying to decide whether to take a path, you'll want to see, and I just ran into a branch there. I've tried to duck out of the way of it, but the camera got hit there a little. But as I was saying, you want to, when you're deciding whether you can take a path in the winter, if you see other tire treads there, it's kind of like, oh, well, somebody else has done it. Chances are they're all right. But again, when there are footprints and tread marks, it really makes it tough to ride because it's just compacted snow, whereas the powder is a little easier to ride in. So you might try to stick to the areas when you're winter riding of just plain powder versus if you see tread marks there. It really does make a difference, and you'd have to get out there and try it for yourself before you probably believe me. But Okay, and this is the last part of the trip. We're going to wrap up the video at this point. This is winter riding, and I'm glad you guys got to see it. From here on out, I'll try to make some more winter videos and increase my time without endangering myself. But at least for now, you can see how long this trip takes me. It was about 30 minutes, and so it's not impossible. I save a lot of money doing it. I hope you do too.